Good afternoon, everyone. You're welcome to another edition of the Nigerian Stock Exchange's virtual facts behind the sustainability report. My name is Olutobi Onoji, and you'll be hearing from me frequently, but briefly in the course of this webinar. We're very glad that you have joined us today, and we're especially pleased to host Seplat Petroleum Development Company PLC to their facts behind the sustainability report presentation. The facts behind the sustainability report is designed to promote the adoption of environmental, social, and governance practices, reporting and disclosure, and encourage responsible long-term approaches to investment. It has certainly been interesting to see more companies pay increasing attention to sustainability as a business concept, and the NSE continues to create an enabling platform to promote further advancement. On our agenda today, we'll hear the Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, Mr. Oscar Onyema, OON, will deliver the opening remarks and set the ball rolling. Questions arising from his session will be addressed after the presentation at the end of the next presenter, who will be the Chief Executive Officer and Executive Director of Seplat Petroleum Development Company PLC, Mr. Roger Thompson Brown, and who will present the facts behind the sustainability report for his organization. As we inch closer to the end of the webinar, we will have the divisional head trading business at the Nigerian Stock Exchange, Mr. Jude Chiomeka, to give the vote of thanks and turn it over to Mr. Onyeka, who will round off with a digital closing gong ceremony. So once again, I welcome you all, and I now hand it over to Mr. Onyema for his opening remarks. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Toby. On behalf of the management and staff of the Nigerian Stock Exchange and the entire capital market community, I welcome the board and executive management of Seplat Petroleum Development Company PLC to their first facts behind the sustainability report presentation. I also welcome you, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, for joining us today. The year 2020 was fraught with unprecedented developments that had a significant impact on the economy. As the country recovers from its second recession in 5 years, it is important to reflect deeply on the learnings from 2020 and global efforts to build back better to achieve sustainable development by 2030. This is why I am particularly delighted to hear of the advances of Seplat Petroleum Development Company PLC in achieving their sustainability aspirations. Studies have shown that sustainability reporting influences a company's performance. According to the Global Reporting Initiative, GRI, sustainability reporting can serve as a learning process for an organization to better understand and manage its impact on people and the planet, while also managing risks, seizing new opportunities, and identifying key actions for contributing towards creating a sustainable future. For us at the NSE, sustainability reporting is at the core of our sustainability journey, which we embarked on in 2013 when we rolled out our sustainability strategy anchored on the 4 pillars of marketplace, workplace, community, and the environment. To further raise the bar, we joined the Sustainable Stock Exchange Initiative, which is a United Nations initiative, and the World Federation of Exchanges, 2 reputable organizations that fuel our aspiration to foster the growth of long-term sustainable finance. While on this ongoing journey, we have achieved a significant number of milestones through strategic collaborations with the government and private sector. including the issuance of the NSC Sustainability Disclosure Guidelines in 2019. We have since hosted a number of workshops in partnership with GRI to promote the practice of sustainability reporting amongst listed companies and help them understand the reporting requirements of the NSC Sustainability Disclosure Guidelines. Today marks another historic day for sustainability at the NSC as we host another virtual Facts Behind the Sustainability Report for another one of our premium board listed companies. Facts Behind the Sustainability Report is fashioned after NSC's flagship Facts Behind the Listings and Facts Behind the Figures series, and is designed to provide the investing ecosystem with details of listed companies' sustainability reports, whilst allowing stakeholders to further engage with the listed companies. We are pleased that Seplat Petroleum Development Company has chosen to leverage this platform to engage their stakeholders on their 2019 sustainability activities, and we hope that they would continue in this tradition. We commend the board and the executive management of Seplat Petroleum Development Company for leading the charge to advance sustainability in the oil and gas sector. The decision to present the facts behind their sustainability report is timely and strategic to the growth of the capital market and the Nigerian economy at large. Once again, I thank everyone who has joined us online today and encourage you to participate fully during the interactive session. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your attention. I would now call on Mr. Roger Thomas Brown, CEO and Executive Director, Seplat Petroleum Development Company, PLC, to deliver his organization's facts behind the sustainability report. Thank you.
Thank you, Oscar, for that wonderful introduction. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted on behalf of Seplat PLC to be able to present our facts behind the sustainability report, reporting virtually from Lagos, as you can see in the background. That's our building. So I just want to run you through a short slide deck, and I'm sure there'll be some questions to follow, and what we are doing as a company to address sustainability within our wider business. And if I can get this working, yes. Okay, so just starting off with our vision and mission statements. It's important to set out clearly how we see Seplat's vision, which is to be a world-class independent energy company, creating value for, and importantly, all stakeholders. And then our mission is to sustainably deliver profitable energy solutions through operational excellence, a skilled workforce, and effective partnerships. And the partnerships are, as we see, critical to our business going forward in delivering this. Let me just run you through the agenda, and we'll split this into three parts. The first part is the Seplat strategy and sustainability, and this really sets out how we approach it, what are our principles of sustainability, what is our policy, and then how do we report, how do we let you know how well we're doing in the various aspects of sustainability. And the second section of this presentation will be running you through our highlights of the 2020 Seplat Sustainability Report, looking at protecting the environment, empowering people, and getting it right. And this is our 10th year of producing this report, and we've been in existence for 10 years. So we've We've addressed this from day one of our operations. And then the third section, just to wrap up, we're going to look at the Sustainable Development Goals, the UN's Sustainable 17 of them, and how Seplat sees them and how is it addressing those. So it's really a glance through that. So I then talk about our approach to sustainability. Really, we get 6 boxes here. The key thing here is that it's driven by knowledge at the heart of our business to deliver sustainability. So we're very clear in how we're going to address it, and the knowledge is contained within the business. And if you go down to the box below that, you can see that our employees really are at the center of this, and it's their dedication to transparency, so clear reporting, clear visibility, and good ethical conduct. And that's really at the center of what Seplat does. If I then move up to the third box, which is facilitating energy provision. So this is about matching energy delivery with the socio-economic development, and those two go hand in hand. It's very critical that we as a business deliver and assist government in delivering the growth of the social development within Nigeria. And then a strong commitment to the social development goals, and we'll run through those 17 in the later slides. The last 2 elements of this slide is the commitment motivated by sustainable value creation. So it's not just a one-off, it's a constant value creation for our stakeholders. And then the key thing then is the stakeholder inclusiveness. So stakeholders are not outside our business, they're within our business. And those stakeholders, whether they be our government partners, our communities, our staff, or our investors. So those are the 4 main, and our business success is inclusive of all of those stakeholders. So then we run into the high level. Let's just flick that. The high level imperatives, and we've listed 6 here, running through this, and then we'll do the next slide. We'll deal with the day-to-day. Okay, so this is putting the high level being sustainability at the core of what you do. It's not an afterthought. It's the integral part of your business. And then you need to embed it throughout your entire company. So everyone in your company understands what we're trying to achieve. Then we need to drive the sustainability from the highest levels of governance, whether it be from the board, the employees, our policies, how we think about it. It has the highest level, the high bar to reach. And then a strong belief in shared value for all stakeholders. And we'll deal with this a little bit more as we go through the slide deck, but it's incredibly important to ensure that there's a shared value. And that is then adopting an inclusive approach to how we interact with stakeholders, how we manage our stakeholders, and we set the rules of engagement of what we're trying to achieve. And then definitely sitting with those stakeholders and working out what is the materiality, what will make the difference for those stakeholders, particularly if you look at the communities, which projects will really make a difference, a material difference to those communities. What project do they value, and how do we deliver those? And then if you look in the day-to-day, and just we've listed some of them here, not all of them, but looking at how we responsibly use our water resources, our energy resources, and our raw materials. We then look at human rights, gender equality, and strive for diversity across our business. We see this is the only way to have a sustainable business, is to have diversity. Then we look at the science, and we've seen that a lot with the COVID pandemic, but really looking at the science itself, looking at science-based targets to measure our environmental footprint. And then looking at stakeholder needs and assessments, and really tailoring and designing those assessments for the right solutions for those stakeholders. Then we need to look at the different cultural variations within our host communities and make sure that we are addressing those for the specific communities we operate. And above all, everything else in the day-to-day is to try to be as transparent and complete in our disclosure as we can. And you can see this sustainability report in our 10th year is testament to that. So then looking at our policy, and really our policy is about deploying resources and expertise to deliver sustainable value for all stakeholders. And we've talked a little bit around this, but we'll deal with how we meet these on the ESG imperatives. We hear a lot about this acronym ESG of environmental, social, and governance, and the interplay between those three factors, which is really where we are focusing our business. We're committed to driving operational excellence in optimizing and carefully using our scarce resources to ensure that society benefits from it. And we are an extractive industry, and therefore the impact of our activities, we need to make sure that the negative impacts are actually addressed and dealt with, and in ensuring that we have a sustainable and environmentally friendly solution going forward. And then what's important is that we put this into the KPIs of our employees. There are key performance metrics, so we can actually measure this going forward, not just in employees, but also in the various communities we operate. And basically, we look at some of the aligned frameworks that there are quite a number out there that we really comply with. And you can see some of them. So we've obviously Nigerian Stock Exchange, and they have set out the sustainable disclosure guidelines. The London Stock Exchange are obviously listed on both exchanges, so looking at their guidelines. Then we have the Global Reporting Initiative, the UN. I mean, there's many, and there's actually specifically one there for the International Petroleum Industry Environmental Association, bit of a mouthful there, but that's been in existence since 1974, so it's nothing new here. And we've obviously the task force, the Financial Reporting Council. So we're bound by a lot of different regulations, procedures, the UN Sustainable Goals. There's a number of things to look out and benchmark ourselves against, and we look at all of these. So let's then move into the ESG. And we'll start with E, which is the protecting the environment. And looking at our environmental management. So we are not just talking about it, but we are acting on it today, which is, I guess, almost since inception, we've always seen gas as being that cleaner fuel source for delivering more affordable electricity within the country. And we've always been driving that since for almost 10 years now in gas transition. We really see this as a stepping stone. It's not the end goal, but it is the stepping stone to delivering what we believe is bigger scale on electricity grid, renewable energy. And we really need a baseload fuel source on that grid. Today it's off-grid diesel. Tomorrow it needs to be on-grid cleaner gas, and therefore that will then allow the transition into renewable energy, and that will then have huge environmental, economic, and social benefits for the country. We have a very well-trodden path of oil spills prevention, and to the extent we get oil spills, a cleanup technology and procedure. Water consumption we look at, waste and effluents and greenhouse gas emissions. And we're obviously displacing a lot of those through displacing of diesel. Electricity, gas flares out is a target within the company. to target for the end of next year, 2022, for flares out across our entire portfolio. And we're well on our way to doing that. And then we have brought on board recently ESG experts to look at a gap analysis across our business, and that's been tabled heavily at the board to actually look at how we bridge that gap and deliver a ESG reporting that we can get measured against. And then a very viable process for GHG emissions, just measurement, and that's underway at the minute, and we've made some good headway. Looking at then climate change and wider into that, we as a business have created a new energy division. That is where we put our midstream gas processing, and that is really looking at how do we develop a lower carbon to zero carbon energy group. So they'll be looking at broadening out the gas business, and then looking at the right way for us as a business and Nigeria as a country to move into renewable energies. And that group is studying how we build that on a scalable business. We've obviously made large investments at Oban, Seplat, and Anu in terms of our gas plant projects, and with all those coming on stream, on a growth basis, we will be above 800 million scuffs a day, and certainly our target is to be the largest gas processor in the country. For our campaign, I've talked about reducing our carbon footprint, looking at science-based emissions reporting, and then what we've also done is we've set up a new group, which is an R&D, a research and development group, to see how best that we look at the transition. And then the carbon calculator is a very key way of measurement. So then let's move into S, which is the social. And I think a lot of the dialogue globally, in our view, focuses heavily on the E, but the S is exceptionally important, and almost more important, certainly from a Nigerian perspective, that we give the social development that we need so badly. So looking at our operations and what impact it has against the stakeholders, and looking at that engagement framework, setting out how we are going to engage through our global memorandum of understanding, what development projects we will do in the various communities, and how we will develop those communities from healthcare to education to social development. Looking at the identification, classification of stakeholders and their expectations, and building a mutually benefit relationship, which is long-term. It's not a short-term play. This is a freedom to operate in the various communities, and it's essential that that is a long-term basis. A regular and consistent engagement and a healthy negotiation around what projects we will do. But the key thing is that we work together to identify those and implement them. And then that's delivering consistently on our GMOU. It's a global memorandum of understanding. It's a document that sets out that engagement with the communities. And then looking at what we do then in terms of local capacity development, local suppliers, we have invested since day one. We have numerous workshops, engagement forums with our suppliers, and building out their capacity from very early stage capabilities in 2010 when we started, to now our suppliers building pipelines and other works within the various operations we have. 98% of our materials are sourced from Nigeria, and this is something that we want to continue with, which is looking at local sourcing and employing local contractors. It's key that whatever contract award you do, it's based on capability, but we've looked at local capacity development and ensuring that once we develop those local contractors, we give them the awards. And this is then aligning with the NCDMB, which is the local content, national content developments. Then looking at empowerment, and we have looked at and implemented a number of programs for empowering of women and youths, with an average age in Nigeria of 18. and growing rapidly. Youth, getting jobs for youth and capacity development is very, very critical. And looking at sustained skills or acquisition programs for youth in our communities, we worked hard on job creation, education programs, and we'll run through those in a second, as part of our CSR programs, and then look at community infrastructure and development. We've engaged 534 employees in our Nigerian and UK operations or locations. Looking at how did we assist with the pandemic? And I must say that the industry sector came together as an industry group of the IPPG and the OPTS, looking at across the government, across the Nigeria, COVID-19 ways that we're going to deal with it with palliatives, etc. In addition to that, and what we're doing as an industry group, we also did separate donations into the areas we operate, particularly in the West and the East, and we give medical consumables. We also give, whatever beds in hospitals, etc., and whatever support we could do. In addition to that, we're also doing is we are working with NAPIMS, which is part of NNPC, and we're looking at developing now an infectious diseases treatment hospital, and we're underway with that. It's 150 to 200 bed hospital. We believe that pandemics are probably not going to end, and research and development of infectious diseases is very, very critical going forward. And then looking on the right-hand side of there, which is the host communities, directly assisting host communities, providing food materials, medical consumables, and enhancing personal hygiene, education to ensure that the virus is contained as much as possible. So then looking at moving on from the social aspects to the actual governance aspects here, and getting the governance right, which is critical to long-term sustainability. And look at our board itself. So from the top down, we have set out the highest standard, we believe, of corporate governance. It's very visible. We have a very strong board, multi-skilled, and representative. Majority of our board is Nigerian, but we obviously do have some internationals on that board representing our dual listing. But our high level of corporate governance is very at the heart of what Seplat does. The board oversight, every board meeting we talk about sustainability, and it's very, very critical. We've had many presentations from our ESG consultants of how we're going to go about addressing this going forward. The CSR committee, or the subcommittee of the board, is the main subcommittee that looks at our sustainability, but it also goes into our governance committee and also goes into our risk committee and some aspects into our finance committee. So it touches on more than one committee, but the CSR committee is the key committee for ensuring oversight of sustainability. And our compliance with the corporate governance policy is a zero tolerance within the business. It's very critical. And then a company-wide compliance with the Code of Business Conduct. And these are all available on our website if anyone wants to have a look at them. Looking at our rights in labour and labour practices, again, we're multi-faceted in terms of diversity, with diversity in gender. We also look at making sure that we're representative of Nigeria. I think we're in now, I think 28 states our employees come from across Nigeria. And then looking at various differences in the culture. So a balanced, diverse employees is really critical to the long-term nature of the business. We have non-discriminatory posture in terms of recruitment and zero tolerance. We don't tolerate any gender discrimination at all, or religion or tribe. And we adhere to national and international labour laws and protocols. Then moving on to our standards and transparent disclosure, and again, we have adhered to a number of international standards. They're not all here, but we'll just give a cross section of some of them and protocols. So we have the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights, and that's very clear set of guidance there, and we comply with that. The International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, and the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination against people, and then International Labour Organization Declaration of Fundamental Principles and Rights at Work. So there's quite a there's a lot of legislation there. We have a compliance team that looks at this constantly and ensures that the board and the employees comply. And then this has been since inception, 2010. We started off on the right foot. We always wanted complete and transparent disclosure, and therefore we put this out every year in our 10 years of sustainability reporting. And I must admit, it gets better each year, and we will continue to improve that. And then we have this new research and sustainability department, and this is really about looking into the future and see how this evolves and ensuring that we stay ahead of the curve. And I've said there in terms of we are about to publish our 10th report. Okay, so just moving and wrapping up on the third section, which is really to talk about the Sustainable Development Goals. And we list out here the UN's 17 goals, and I'm pleased to say that we address quite a number of these goals already, and we will continue to ensure that we address all 17 in a quite a major way. And obviously the first one, I won't run through every one of them, but obviously the first one is no poverty, zero hunger, and the second, good health and quality education on this slide. And so this, across our community developments, we have quite a number of programs dealing with this. Healthcare is really the center of what Seplat's DNA really is in the communities. We have the I Can See program, the Safe Mother Care. Education, again, is another area that we're pushing hard on. We have obviously a very popular Pearls quiz, which is incredibly high talent and very competitive. And then we have the Seplat Teachers Empowerment Program, which we've just launched this year or last year. And that really is about empowering teachers and ensuring education. This then will then give a bedrock of growth in the various areas we operate, which will obviously lead to no poverty and zero hunger. And we do hand out food and other palliatives, as we've said earlier on. Then looking at some of the other aspects of the 17, gender equality, we've talked about clean water and sanitation again, affordable and clean energy. And this is critical that energy must be, we're heading towards clean energy, but it must be affordable energy, and it must be scalable and covering the country. And so therefore, that's why I said gas was a very critical growth area, which would then allow this wider renewable energy. Decent work and economic growth, and this is really the skills program. So we have our C4C program, which is the Seplat Partners for Conversations for Change, which is really about entrepreneurs. It's this micro entrepreneurial spirit which is inherent throughout the country, and it's really about targeting and creating entrepreneurs, giving them the business know-how to be able to grow these small to medium-sized businesses, which will really create the future of employment in the country. And the last areas here, which is industry innovation, sustainable cities, climate action, peace, justice, and strong institutions. I won't go through everyone. You have an ability to see this. This will go onto our website if it isn't already, so you'll be able to read through this and what we do to address them. And then the final one, of course, is partnerships, and that's really what Seplat's all about, partners with the government, with our communities, with our local contractors to deliver, and obviously the things like the Nigerian Stock Exchange, etc. And that really is, that partnership and working together is really key to our success as a company. So I'll just wrap up and say thank you very much for listening. We'd be delighted to take any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Roger, for your presentation. Very detailed indeed, and quite inspiring initiatives that Seplat has implemented for its stakeholders across during the reporting year. We do have a few questions just before we go into the vote of thanks. If you're ready, I will take them.
Yes. Yeah.
Great. So the first question comes from an anonymous attendee. He or she has asked, being in the extractive industry, how do you mitigate the negative impact of your activities on the environment?
Should we answer each question one by one, or should we take all together?
So what I would do is, I think we can take this one because we don't have very many questions. We have just a few questions and we're running out of time. So if we can take this one.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, so this is obviously, we are an extractive industry, and this is, extractive industries doesn't mean that, it's harmful for the environment. We are providing essential energy for the growth of all the other sectors within the country. But of course we have an environmental group, a health and safety group that looks at, we have procedures for cleanup of well sites. To the extent there's any spills that we have a very detailed cleanup of that, and ensuring that we return our sites back to where it was previously. One area that we really are working hard on is flare site. So we want, as a company, to have a zero flare, and we have a target by the end of 2022. We will do that. That will have significant environmental benefits for the various countries, the areas we operate. So yeah, we have a lot of procedures to put in place. We can't hyper extractive, but I think we have a good way to put things back to where they were before we arrived.
Great. So on the back of that question, we had received a question prior to the webinar asking about, what's Seplat's most critical transitional risks, and this is in line with the TCFD framework. So what would you say are the most critical transitional risks for the organization in terms of TCFD framework?
Yeah, look, I think we are in Africa and in Nigeria, of course we operate, but in the wider Africa, it's going to be one of the challenges for us as a nation and as a country to be able to balance our social development with our energy transition. And if we get that out of kilter, what will happen is we will not get social development. And this is the biggest risk, I think, faces Nigeria, and it faces us as a company to ensure that we get that transition right. We are obviously, we bring a lot of inward investment into the country. We obviously have investors in Nigeria as well, and we also have banks in Nigeria and globally. And capital is almost in an ESG perspective is getting driven down the E route at the cost of S. And I keep going back between environment and social. The agenda seems to be an environmental agenda. And that is a danger, that's a risk to us as a country and a company, is ensuring that we get capital for growth, to ensure that we can put in place that transition that's right for Nigeria. There's no point in us giving a US transition or a UK or a European transition, because the development was done years and years and years, decades ago in those countries, and now they're heading towards electrification and trying to bring electric vehicles, etc. in. Nigeria has got a long way to develop into that. And if we don't get this right and give affordable, cleaner, let's call it cleaner energy, we're going to miss all the social development targets. So we're not going to get the developments in healthcare. We're not going to get developments in education. We won't get developments in affordable food and security going forward, and infrastructure development in the country. And therefore we'll miss the social development. And look, the social development is a global development. It's not just Africa. And we have to make sure that we match that. So we've got to get out on the road and tell people, look, what are we doing? We are doing the transition that's right for the country. And we will, Nigeria will go into renewables, no doubt about it. It's already in hydro. It's not a big carbon emitter anyway, in a global context. But it's already got renewables. The government's got plans to have an energy transition. And gas is that transition. So that's one of the biggest issues for us, is to ensure that we get the capital to plug into our growth areas.
Great. Thank you very much for that question. So we do have the questions pouring in now. Sadly, we don't have a lot of time. So I will take the next questions in batches. I will take them 2 at a time. The next question is, to what extent do you, as Seplat, engage Nigerian universities in research and development at the moment and in the long term? And the second question is Seplat building a refinery? If no, why? Nigeria needs more refineries, according to Isaac Olorunbo. Over to you.
So I'm glad you asked about the universities R&D, because this is exactly what we are moving towards heavily. So we've obviously set up this R&D group, and that really will be looking at universities to work with us as partnerships, to work and use a lot of the skill sets that sit within the university, wider university groupings, to look at R&D. We've set up a Centre of Excellence. We are, going to be talking across quite a number of universities within Nigeria to see how we can then get programs, research behind it, etc. We've got to go as a team. We have a lot of knowledge and intelligence in the country, and we want to be able to tap on that. We want to bring out separate programs which will be really dealing with what does sustainability mean into the future, and what R&D projects can really work for the country. It's not about buying them in, it's what makes sense for within Nigeria. So that's quite I'm glad someone asked that, because that's really hot of what we're doing. The question around the refineries, look, as a company, we've looked at this quite heavily in the past. We don't have a strategy to build refineries per se, but if it made sense, we would certainly look at it. We have in the past. But what we are doing is we are providing oil to the refineries. So we've signed a supply agreement to the Walter Smith refinery in the east of the country. We're actually looking at another refinery in the west. And so while we may not build refineries, because they may over time become an oversupply, we are certainly going to be supplying oil into them on a case-by-case basis. Okay.
Thank you very much. I hope that answers your questions, Emmanuel Owosu and Isaac Olorunbo. The next set of questions will be one from an anonymous attendee, which asks, perhaps you can what will be the marked difference in the performance of your operations since you began your sustainability journey 10 years ago? That's the first question. And on the back of that question, Michael Bossomo says that Seplat is apparently an industry trailblazer. What, in your opinion, sir, would you handpick as the most valuable key to the success of the company?
Thank you very much. So in terms of just the first, I think there's sort of similar, aren't they, these questions in terms of, sorry, who was the first question you asked? I'm trying to look on the list.
So what would you say is the marked difference, or what has been the marked difference in the performance and operations of the company since it began the sustainability journey? So I suppose this question is trying to understand the impact of sustainability on your organization's operations.
Yeah, sorry, I just couldn't see the list in front of me. Okay. Yeah, look, I guess the easy one there is, if you look back, I guess in 2012, so we're quite a new company. We decided then at that time that we would build a midstream gas business and expand into it quite dramatically. And we built, we expanded Oban, which is our gas hub. And we also have one at Seplat. We're building one at Anno at the minute. But back in 2012, we decided to expand our gas processing from 150 million scuffs a day with the government to 525. Now, there was no market for that. Gas prices were very, very cheap. But we took call it a calculated investment decision and saw where the country was going and knew it needed gas to be able to deliver that. And everything else that would go along with the gas. So we were able to supply reliable gas into the main demand centers, and most of it goes into Lagos, but also we can go into the Abuja axis out of Oban. That investment at the time was a little bit of look into the future, but now it's really directing where the Nigeria has to go, and it has to go now in scale. If you look at what we're trying to achieve here, if you see that the grid system off grid in Nigeria is 20 gigawatts probably, that we estimate of that, you'll need probably 4 BCF of gas a day. There's probably maximum 2 BCF coming into the system, not even that, probably 1. And Seplat's looking to go up in terms of gross terms is to do almost a BCF of gas. So you can see how, even if we deliver these projects, it's a real mere drop in the ocean of what Nigeria needs. And that's just to displace diesel generation, never mind giving everyone in Nigeria access to clean, affordable energy. So that was probably on the sustainability journey, that was a key one. The other one is obviously the how we approach our communities and our global memorandum of understanding, our freedom to operate, to really treat them as a partner and not treat them as something to be contained. So this is where you actually build out the capacity development in the various communities. You build their own, they create smaller businesses, which then have a multiplier effect. And that was very, very critical. So there's a couple of things. I mean, I could talk for more, but I think in the interest of time. And then looking at the other question, which is around us being a trailblazer, what's the valuable success of the company? I think a couple of things. One is governance is very critical, setting out the rules and actually living and abiding by the rules. But I think one of the other big things that we did right from the start was build a middle tier management and a lower tier management and ensure that we had an integration across the entire business. So we allowed and perpetrated discussion within the business. So it wasn't just one person running it. It was actually building those management layers, which allowed us to grow more rapidly, I believe. So I think there's a couple of things that made us trailblazers. Of course, we made decisions to go in other business lines. We obviously went to dual listing, etc., on London or Lagos and London, and then I'm now going premium board in Lagos. But I think it's really within the people and obviously the communities you operate in and the government partnerships. Those are the critical things to ensure that you stay ahead and continue to be a trailblazer. Okay.
We've run out of time, but I will just ask this last question before we go to the vote of thanks. The person, his name is Samuel. Samuel asks, what are the core strategies that Seplat hopes to deploy or is currently deploying to position itself in a regime of persistent low oil prices?
Yeah, good question. I think let's answer them on three areas really. First strategy is to ensure that your staff and your partners know the direction you want to go in terms of managing. So it's the alignment of getting everyone on the same page to understand how you manage a business in a low price environment. Of course, we've been through it quite a few times. We've also had shut-ins for 18 months. So we've been stress tested as a business, and we've come through that on a number of occasions. So alignment within your business is probably the most critical. Then looking at efficiency. So efficiencies of how you operate, efficiencies how you take decisions, and in ensuring that we're drilling the right wells, we're putting the right infrastructure in place, we're dealing with the stakeholders to ensure that we can hit projects on time, and that's very, very critical. And then obviously cost control. So cost control, the government has been extremely good in doing this across the industry. It has a target of $10 per unit operating cost, and it's starting to drive through that. We're below that today as a company, and but not in every asset. So we're still working a certain amount of assets. But cost control, efficiency, alignment within the business, and then you have other things, obviously hedging and lots of stuff, but that will never give you a long-term business. The last thing I want to say, and I've talked a lot about it, but which is having a gas business which is not tied to oil price. So it's a long-term contracted business which has a different tariff regime to it, and therefore you have the balance of in low oil prices, you still have a very functioning long-term gas business and arguably a lower risk business from that perspective.
Thank you very much, Mr. Roger. We would love to take a few more questions, but we've unfortunately run out of time for this session. I would like to hand over to Mr. Juche to deliver the vote of thanks. Over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Toby. The CEO of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, Mr. Oscar N. Onyema, OON, the Chief Executive Officer and Executive Director, Seplat Petroleum Development Company, PLC, Mr. Roger Thompson Brown, distinguished ladies and gentlemen who have joined us across all our online channels. It is indeed a great pleasure and privilege for me to deliver the closing remarks and extend a vote of thanks at today's virtual facts behind the sustainability report, which you will all agree has been a resounding success. We have listened to the inspiring initiatives that Seplat Petroleum Development Company implemented, and we applaud the company's stewardship to its stakeholders and environment. Sustainability is at the heart of the company's operations, and we commend the board and the management of Seplat for the transparency it has displayed in leveraging this platform to present its progress on its sustainability aspirations. It will therefore be appropriate to set the rule of appreciation in motion by thanking them for the courage to step up to make this presentation and applaud all the laudable sustainability initiatives that they implemented for the benefit of their stakeholders. An event of this nature is made possible only with the contributions of many people. The build-up to this event was centered around collaboration between the teams at the NSC and Seplat. And the success of this event attests to the resilience of the teams. And the greatest gratitude goes to the audience who joined us across all our various online platforms and interacted by sharing your comments and asking valuable questions. In closing, I would like to also reiterate that at the NSC, we understand that sustainability is a journey. We also understand that companies are on different stages of this journey. To this end, we encourage companies to report on the progress of their respective sustainability journeys. The sustainability reporting process is a learning process for many companies, and this helps them to understand the most important sustainability issues that affect their business and their stakeholders. We will continue to strengthen our collaborations with organizations such as Sustainable Stock Exchange Initiative, United Nations Global Impact, Global Reporting Initiative, and Principles for Responsible Investing to build capacity within the market to drive the wide acceptance of sustainable business practices. We look forward to having more listed companies post their facts behind the sustainability report, and many more sessions to promote the growth of ESG imperatives and disclosures across the exchange. Thank you all for listening, and at this time I'll hand over to Toby.
Thank you very much, sir, for the vote of thanks. We're 2 minutes shy of the closing on ceremony. I'll hand over to Mr. Oscar Onyema, CEO of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, to close the market. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Toby and Jude. And Roger, let me congratulate you on a very insightful presentation, and congratulate Seplat for your the level of maturity that you guys have already attained in the sustainability journey. It is really inspiring, and I believe that a lot of the listed companies are going to take note of the presentation that has been done today. As you know, in the tradition of the exchange, we typically close the market with a gong. You've participated in some of these. We've now transitioned into a digital gong ceremony. So at exactly 2:30, I would invite you to close the market, and we shall hear the gong go off, and we'll all be clapping to herald the closing of trading for today. So we're currently at about 2:29, just, okay, we're at 2:30. So Roger, I invite you to close the market.
Okay.
He's thinking I'm escalating to me. I don't know. But his instruction is that you must be copied in every
Let's go ahead and close the market.
So yeah. You're right. But
thank you very much for that. And that also brings us to the end of transmission today. I thank all of you for your participation, and please continue to stay safe. Have a nice one.